Good afternoon. My name's Chris Hotchkins. I'm CEO of the Miami Tunnel, and I'm absolutely delighted today to talk about the transport sector in the decade ahead. And for all of us at Meridian Infrastructure, where I'm senior advisor, it's all about resiliency, it's about sustainability, and it's about the future. For example, at the Miami Tunnel, where I'm the CEO, we looked at coming up with an innovative way to get from a major interstate to Port Miami, but we had a problem with that, and that's that we had a plan for sea level rise. We had to look at climate change and decide how we were going to address that solution. So we put in these 50-ton metal gates that when we go to category code Yankee through the Coast Guard, those heavy metal gates come down, 50-ton metal gates, come down and seal the tunnel watertight. Because how do you worry about a risk of your asset when your asset is underwater? So we were able to take on sea level rise and plan for it. And now as we look forward to the decade ahead, it's still all about resiliency, it's still all about sustainability, and it's about looking at innovative ways and looking outside the box to try to address something that's ready for a new paradigm shift, and that's mobility. And I'm really excited today because we've got leaders in the industry that know all about mobility and are getting ready for the decade ahead. I have with me today Mark Filikowski, who's president of Parsons Mobility Systems. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Chris.
Glad to have you here today.
Thanks.
We also have Levi Olivaria, the executive secretary of transport from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Welcome, Levi. We have Thomas Risky, CEO of Norse Power. He's going to tell us an innovative way that as we look at sustainability and look at different ways to create energy, we all know that we're looking at wind power, but how do we get those massive structures across the ocean to serve those projects that need those massive structures to hold those turbines? He's going to tell us how they do it. We also have Lawrence Battle with us today. She is chairwoman and CEO of RATP Development, and she'll be with us. So let's start off right now with the leader and the president of Parsons Mobility. Mark, tell us what's happening and how you're planning ahead to look at resiliency, sustainability, and innovation and what's happening in the transport markets.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. I'll give you an overview of what we do. So, I said we run mobility solutions. Parsons is a worldwide infrastructure provider. We provide a lot of services to the federal government. And when you look at infrastructure specifically, let's start here in Miami. We've worked here for almost 65 years. If you flew through Miami Airport, you saw some of our work there on the terminals, the MIA mover, working now on the baggage handling system. We do a lot of work for the Miami Sewer and Water Department, Florida Department of Transportation, Florida's Turnpike. So, local piece of it. And I know we've got a lot of Canadians in the room and listening in, so I want to touch on some work we do there. In Montreal, we're finishing up a large interchange project in downtown Montreal. Turco Interchange, about $1.5 billion. Well, we're part of the consortium that's delivering that. We designed the A25 bridge. Do a lot of work for Metrolinx. We do mine remediation work in the Yukon, Faro Mine, Giant Mine. And then also we designed the Southwest Calgary Ring Road, which just opened on Saturday officially in Alberta. But beyond North America, we do a lot of work in the Middle East in the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. We got about 4,000 people there in the region. We've been there over 50 years. Some of the most amazing projects you see in the world are really occurring right now in the Middle East. Riyadh Metro is a good example. Probably saw in the news that Expo 2020 opened this week in Dubai. We helped to deliver the Red Line extension out to the Expo site, helped do work on the Expo site. And we also work in Europe and Central America and some in Southeast Asia too on some specialty projects, marquee projects. So we've really got a view of kind of what's going on all over the world. And you're right, Chris, sustainability, resiliency, we hear that from all of our clients. Because as we look ahead, we've got to design and operate our infrastructure a lot differently than we do today.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Now I'd like to talk to Thomas Risky. You know, as we look at mobility and we look at sustainability, you know, we always think of what we're doing for innovation in mobility, and that's transporting people. But there's also an aspect that we need to look at, and that's transporting goods. And in this case, those goods are to help us look at our electrical grid in a good green way. And we'd like to talk, we have Thomas Risky here today. Tom, could you tell us some things about your company and what you're doing in regards to sustainability and looking at innovative ways and environmental impacts to get this heavy equipment across the seas?
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon. So my company, Norsepower from Finland, we are today the leading provider of mechanical sails for large ships. Both cargo and passenger ships can use our technology. So what we do, we fit our mechanical sails on the deck of the ship. They are actually large rotating cylinders, so-called Flettner rotors. They don't look like sailing boat sails, but we do just the same phenomena with our mechanical sails. When the wind conditions on the sea are favorable, our mechanical sails help to push the ship forward. They reduce the main engine load, they reduce the fuel consumption, and they reduce all related emissions. In typical cases, as we have proven already through 6 different ship fittings with our mechanical sails, we can reduce the emissions of cargo transport up to 20% in average with our mechanical sails. So this is one of the key technologies enabling decarbonization of global shipping. It's one of the most challenging sectors to be decarbonized. These ocean voyages, they are always long and they always need a fuel to propel the ship. We see that wind energy, it's a renewable eternal energy on the sea, and with our mechanical sails it can be used to propel the ships and to reduce the fuel consumption and emissions of shipping and to make also shipping sustainable in long term.
So that's rather amazing because I looked at pictures of the apparatus that you have on the ships, and I saw that these huge structures, how do they propel the ship?
The physics is based on so-called Magnus Effect. We actually know it from ball games. If you have played golf and you have any issues with hook or slice, what you are actually doing in that ball game is that you are hitting a ball through the air so that the ball has a spin while it's moving through the air. And when this ball is flying through the air with the spin is rotating a thin layer of air around that spinning ball. And while the ball is flying through the air, the movement of the ball is creating airflow, of course opposing the move. And because of the spin, the situation becomes in a way asymmetric. On one hand side of the ball, the rotating air is opposing the flow. It's making the flow slower and increasing the pressure on that side. On the other hand side, the spin is accelerating the flow and creating a low pressure area. Now this is easy. We have high pressure and low pressure, which is starting to curve the path of the flying golf ball. And we are using this ball game physics in our mechanical sail. We rotate the cylinder, it rotates air around the rotating cylinder. And when this rotating cylinder is placed on the deck of the ship, and when the ship is moving on the sea, and when the cylinder is exposed to ocean wind, it's generating the same ball game pressure difference. And we trim our cylinders so that through this pressure difference, we are starting to push the ship forward. That's how we reduce the emissions. This is the most effective mechanical sail ever made in the world.
Wow, that's amazing. We now have Levi Olivaria, who is the Sao Paulo, runs the largest bus network in all of Brazil, and that can't be easy. So Levi, tell us what you're doing and why it's a great success.
Olá, boa tarde a todos. Primeiro,
good afternoon to all. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to participate in the World Strategic Forum, where we are talking about the future of transportation. Here in São Paulo, we use the biggest bus route, where there are about an average of 14,000 buses that operate on a daily basis. These types of buses have all shapes and sizes We have buses up to 27 meters long. These buses are distributed in 1,300 routes that are geographically distributed in the city of São Paulo. And within the city, we have 9 million cars that drive on a daily basis, being that 1.6 million are motorcycles. And besides that, in the city of São Paulo, we have 37,000 licensed taxis that operate on a daily basis. And we have over 20,000 bus stops in the city. Our bus routes are equipped with air conditioning. They are equipped with Wi-Fi so that people and passengers may connect while they are waiting for their ride or on their ride. 95% of our buses are equipped with a motor 5 type of motor. The transportation system as a collective in the city of São Paulo attend to 25% of the public that use the bus. And between these buses and larger terminals, we have 32 terminals. And the terminals are extremely important for people to be able to leave the city and participate in local transportation. And besides that, the city has exclusive lanes for the buses. And São Paulo respects the priority of the elderly, of people to ride in these buses. In the year of 2021 alone, the city of São Paulo renewed over 1,800 buses to be able to guarantee the transportation within the city for the people that live in the city. What that does is it provides security to the public and to the passenger that they will get to their destination safely while obeying all of the COVID-19 pandemic rules. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Olivaria. One of the things that you did during COVID is that you kept the buses running on time. But how are you working now to bring passengers back in this COVID area?
Perfeitamente. Durante todo o período de pandemia e por orientação...
During the entire pandemic, and also with the help of the city of São Paulo, with the help of City Hall, the demand was always extremely high for transportation. It did not stop. So, for an example, right now, São Paulo has a demand of 59% that need transportation. And before the pandemic, we are operating at a 97% level compared to the 100% operating level before the pandemic. So we are basically 91% back running as normal. Another thing that we confronted during the pandemic is that the city of São Paulo, inside the Department of Transportation, guaranteed the public safety, even though the people may have been limited to find transportation, we guaranteed them that there would continue to be transportation, and we actually prioritized transportation for healthcare workers to be able to get to work so that there would not be a lack of healthcare workers. We have over 52,000 employees involved in the transportation of São Paulo, and there were no people let go during the pandemic. And besides that, we were able to continue all of the employees that helped with the cleaning of 14,000 buses. The buses maintained a mandatory use of masks during people's bus rides. And we put markers down at every single bus stop and inside the buses of where people should social distance. We also adopted installation of equipment so that these professionals that were taking the bus were able to safely and cleanly store their equipment on their bus ride. And besides that, the city of São Paulo participated in putting up hand sanitizer stands. We also participated in a study that it was very important for the essential workers to get back to work as soon as possible to prevent the spread of COVID, actually. And that way, we were able to divulge that people could go back to using the bus safely. The buses have Wi-Fi accessibility for people with disabilities. The buses have air conditioning. And it is the city's goal, and we project that 85% of the demand that existed before the pandemic in São Paulo for transportation will surpass the demand that existed before the pandemic in 2022.
That's great. Thank you very much. Well, I think that if we look at what's happening, and we talked about the paradigm shift that's taking place, and we look at those issues that we want to try to address, like resiliency and sustainability, I'm glad we have Lawrence Battle with us today, because it's not just about resiliency and sustainability and continuous improvement and operational excellence. She brings something to the table, which is in regards to if we want to improve what we're doing, then we got to look at some other issues, which is ease of access, customer service, and other aspects that really talk about the quality of ridership. Lawrence, can you tell us something about that?
So many thanks, and it's very much interesting to listen all of you, and it rings many bells to me. Let me give you a few words about RATP. So RATP, we are a public transportation company operating in 13 different countries with almost 70,000 people all over the world. We have operation in the US, we have operation in Washington, in Charlotte, in Tucson, in Inglewood. We're operating buses and light rail. We have operation, of course, our historical footprint is Paris, with 100% of the Parisian network operated by RATP. And we have many operations also in France, in Italy, in the UK, in Middle East, and we are working with our friend Mark on the Riyadh Metro in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. And basically, before jumping to your question, I just would like to give two figures. The first one is that 25% of the global emission comes from transportation. The second one is that today, 55% of the worldwide population live in a city, and in 20 years from now, it will be almost 70%. So when you put these two figures next to each other, you can clearly envision the major challenges we have to face to ensure that we live tomorrow in cities that are providing a quality of life that we all expect for. And for that, one of the big challenges, of course, to ensure that all of us are switching as much as possible from the individual car to the public transportation, which is by definition very low emission compared to individual car, even though we also need to decarbonize the public transportation, as Thomas is doing for sailing boat, which is, and thank you for this great explanation with the golf ball. It was very much interesting. I think I learned a lot this afternoon. So basically, how to attract more people in public transportation is clearly our obsession, and we're working on many different aspects. And the pandemic accelerated, in fact, a lot of this. The first one is definitely, and Levi talked about it, and following the pandemic, is to reassure our user that public transportation is safe, that public transportation is clean, that we have implemented new sanitary protocol, and that we don't have any cluster in public transportation. UITP, which is the International Union for Transport Public Transportation, ran a lot of study about that. There is no cluster in public transportation. The second one, of course, is to work on the user experience, and that was clearly your question, Christopher. On the user experience, following the pandemic, basically all the contactless issue is at the center of the expectation of our clients. So with the pandemic, what we have seen all over the world, it's not only in France or in the US or in the UK, it's really a worldwide trend. We have seen that all this contactless is at the forefront of priorities for public transportation, meaning contactless for ticketing system, meaning app for our passenger, so that they can see the load of the bus who is coming, and to see if they will go on this bus or on the following line. Or it means also, I mean, in buses, for instance, and Levi knows that very well, we have this stop button, and today people do not want to touch any more button in lift or button in buses or whatever. So they use their umbrella, their gloves, their whatever. And we have worked with a startup to develop a stop button, which is a button on a hologram. So there is no touching, physical touching anymore, but it does work. And of course, it's very, very popular. So all the system around public transportation to enhance the user experience is very, very much important. And digital, of course, is also something that will enable us to provide a more seamless journey to our people, to our clients, from door to door, using not only the bus, but the bus plus the scoot, or the bus plus the metro plus the walking, having one single app, one-stop shop, a single app to planify, to buy your ticket, and to know how to go from one transportation mode to another, door to door. And this is something very much important, and we are working hard on that. We have implemented that in Paris. We have implemented that in many cities in France. We are implementing that in Tuscany. So this is something absolutely critical just to ease the journey for our clients, basically. And last but not least, and on digital there are many things. And last but not least, and this is also very much critical, and that has been enhanced with the pandemic, is the environmental or sustainability awareness. And Thomas, you mentioned it very, very clearly. Public transportation, we have metro, which are of course electrical system. We have tramway electrical system, but we have also buses, and most of buses still on a worldwide basis are on a thermic traditional energy. And we have this major challenge to ensure that our clients will be proud to use public transportation, to move these buses from traditional energy sources to an electrical or a hydrogen or a green, whatever, a green energy. So currently we are doing that in many cities. In Paris, it's not 14,000 buses like in Sao Paulo. It's only almost 5,000 buses, but still. By 2025, 100% of the fleet will be a fleet without emission. So it's a major transformation program. We are doing that in London, where we are operating roughly 15% of the market share of London. And by 2022, meaning tomorrow, 25% of our fleet will be fully electric. So major challenge around this transition. But this transition in electric or in hydrogen means also that together with the ecosystem, we need to work on energy sources that are green, because you can have green electric buses, or if electricity is made by coal, or it's not as if it's made by like in Royal today, hydroelectricity. I mean, the challenges are absolutely amazing, and we are very keen to address them.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. They are absolutely amazing. And I think that if we look at ease of access, customer satisfaction, in the innovation of which you talked about, I think we see a lot more people taking public transportation. And by the way, that was a beautiful view out your window. Where are you today?
I'm in Montreal. I'm very happy. You know, I was stuck in Paris for so many times, and I just arrived to Montreal yesterday evening and enjoy the view. This is beautiful.
You have a beautiful view out that window. Thank you very much. So one of the things that Lawrence talked about was safety, health, and Mark, you have one of the largest engineering firms, not just here in North America, but around the world, with thousands of employees. So as we look at all the needs that we have out there and all the work that you're doing in regards to mobility, what are you doing in regards to health and safety and the aspects that you need to look at for your workers in the workplace?
First, that's paramount, Chris. That's the first thing that we're worried about. Make sure everybody's safe, everybody's comfortable working, then make sure that they can continue to do their work. So we touched in some earlier sessions about how amazing it is that now we're able to really do all this work from home and still deliver for our clients. So now we got to look to what's the next phase. You know, I think we do miss some things of people just working from home in terms of mentoring, in terms of really networking with people. That's why an event like this is great. So we're really looking into the next step. Make sure everybody's safe. Make sure that everybody feels comfortable, but also start to move that work back a little bit so we can reform our teams and make sure we continue to deliver for our clients. And really on our client side, we're really rethinking the way that we would design an airport terminal, the way that we look at transit vehicles. I guess all those things are a bit different now because we're seeing the travel patterns.
So safety aspects have also effectuated the changes in design?
Absolutely. Like Lawrence was saying, in terms of any kind of contactless fare system, I mean, that's now the standard. And really kind of minimize contact points at airports. You look at ventilation a lot differently. You look at queuing differently. So it's really affecting all those pieces. And those changes are going to be permanent because people are going to expect that.
That's great. That's great. I'd like to go back now. I was actually amazed by Thomas Risky and what he was doing on the innovation of powering ships. We have the Miami Tunnel, and that's to service cargo. And I'm just wondering, how long before we see your type of innovation being used for ships that are carrying cargo coming into the ports here in North America, do you think?
We actually have them already. For example, the Maersk Tankers tanker, which we have fitted with our mechanical sails, could visit one of your ports one day. There are also some other ships like giant Brazilian ore carrier, which could potentially fit your continent. So that point is approaching.
Well, that's great. Wonderful. Something that's the gorilla in the room, and Mark, the infrastructure bill. Mm-hmm. You can't talk to a president of an engineering firm without talking about the infrastructure bill.
Right.
What do you think? What's happening? What's going to happen?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity. For Parsons, it completely aligns with what we do on water, wastewater, environmental remediation, tunnels, bridges, public transport, on and on. But I think one thing you got to understand, there's a lot of money out there right now. There's a lot of work out there right now. So yeah, that'd be good. But America is finally starting to understand we need to invest in our infrastructure. And, they think the momentum behind the bill, don't quote me on this, will get us there, but there's still going to be a bit of a political process to go. So I think I'll get there. And I think we'll also need to understand that our clients will need more resources to be able to help deliver that program too. It's not just about, providing money. It's also about providing, the staff and the expertise to the clients so they can get those projects out, advertise them, and get them built. So I'm still optimistic. This last week's been a little bit rocky, but I think we'll see something get done.
One of the things I know that as we built the Miami Tunnel, we certainly wanted to look at, the sustainable development goals and things that people look at. But also one of the things that we looked at was creating not just an infrastructure solution, but also creating opportunity through jobs. And I think that's one of the most important things that we have looking at that infrastructure bill. Here in Miami, we employed over 7,000 people, 83% of those folks coming right from our own communities. It was organic opportunity.
Yep.
So I think that's one aspect of the infrastructure bill, that I'm looking forward to.
And I think in order to deliver it, we're going to need to be creative and bring more people into the industry.
Right.
We're sort of capped out capacity-wise. So we've got a program at Los Angeles World Airports called Hire LAX. We really go into the communities and get people interested in careers in engineering, in construction, and help them, get the knowledge that they need, and then get them set up with an entry-level job so we can expand that base and then also have kind of more equitable distribution of those jobs too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most interesting things about infrastructure of recent is, and I know we had a panel discussion on it here, is the ESG, environmental and social governance, where we look at what we're doing in the community in regards to building new sustainable infrastructure, but also what is the relationship to the community. And you bring that up by what you're doing in LA. It's also important because, whether it's, you're going in to build a SkyTrain or a monorail, as a derivative of that, what are you doing for STEM programs in the schools, and how are we reaching out to turn young women into our future engineers that are disproportionately underrepresented? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us as we look at that. Lawrence, if you were looking at the infrastructure bill that we're looking at right now in the United States, what are some of the things that you would consider would be fundamental that we should have in regards to innovation in public transportation?
Well, this is very much interesting because this infrastructure bill basically many countries or many areas are having the same kind of mindset. And when we think about European Union, this is 730 billion that are investing in new infrastructure, roughly 40% for energy transition. This is the same in Canada. This is the same in Australia. So basically, this trend is really a trend that we can see in most of the countries where we are operating. And I think looking at the States, if I may. Individual transportation in the States, meaning the car, was really the queen in the States. And tomorrow, when we think about developing cities that are more enjoyable, more sustainable, with less emission, public transportation has a great future for the States. We are working hard on that. We know there are many projects, and we're working in Miami too on some of the projects. Actually, 3 infrastructure projects that are very much interesting for us, either driverless or LRT. This is the same in LA. And what is very much important in this matter is really to consider how to allocate the risk between the private sector and the public sector to ensure that the private sector will be there to support this development of public transportation in the state. And we're facing exactly the same challenges in all the countries I already mentioned. Coming back on infrastructure and how to build infrastructure and resilient infrastructure, I think there is also in public transportation a major trend to think infrastructure, not the rail infrastructure, but depots infrastructure as a multi-usage infrastructure. And this is also a way of having more sustainable and more resilient infrastructure. If you think about having a bus depot or a tramway depot in the middle of the city that is absolutely needed, in the middle of the city, the landscape is quite, scarcity is there, the price is high. And if you think about multi-usage, having a depot which is underground and building on top of the depot to have stores, shops, retail space, home space, real estate space, then you think about infrastructure also in a different way. But I'm sure Mark with Parsons is having that top of his priority too.
Thank you. One of the things I think is, as we look at mobility and, electric vehicles, or today they had a picture of a driverless vehicle down at City Hall in Miami. We know that we have the people mover that does not have someone inside driving that. And I think as we look at the driverless vehicles, driverless trams and monorails and rail cars, what is the threat right now when we look at cybersecurity and everything going on there? What do you think our threat is that, and how do we address it?
Well, absolutely. I think the more connected everything is, the more risk we really have to cyber attacks. So we see it, like you mentioned, in those coming technologies, but we see it today. We see it, wastewater systems, you see transit systems, the city of Atlanta. So the threat's real today, but as things get more and more interconnected, as we have those systems become more complicated, then that threat's only going to rise. So it's really got to be part of the way we look at designing and operating infrastructure. Has to have cyber in mind. And using some of those best minds from the federal side of our business, we're helping them understand infrastructure and how can they help protect that infrastructure so that we can really reduce those threats and mitigate them.
So I know that for Meridian Infrastructure, our whole initiative is look at carbon reduction. Resiliency, sustainability, looking at carbon reduction. And I know, Thomas Risky, you mentioned when we talk about carbon reduction, you called it decarbonization. Do you have a goal for that?
Of course, we have a goal for that. Actually, UN's IMO has set the goal for international shipping that it should be decarbonized with 50% by 2050 from the current level. And that's extremely challenging task. Thank you for Lawrence. It's nice to hear how you decarbonize bus transportation and those kind of items. And I totally agree that for land-based transport, like batteries, they are a good way to do the decarbonization. Expected that you can produce the electricity in a non-carbon way. But with shipping, especially with long-haul shipping, the kind of mass or volume based capacity of energy of batteries, it's so poor that to make an electric ship for long-haul voyages, it really doesn't work. You should take all the cargo space just to make that voyage. So in international shipping, we have a huge challenge how to reach that decarbonization goal. And today it looks like that can be done based on some carbon neutrally produced fuels. Best candidates which I see today are hydrogen, ammonia and methanol. But what I see also that these energy efficient non-carbon fuels, they will be about 5 times more expensive than today's energy of shipping, which is actually based on burning heavy fuel oil, which is less expensive than crude oil because it's in a way oil refinery waste. So when this is happening in shipping, we have to go into this expensive propulsion energy. It will mean that today's payback for let's say our rotor sales, which is typically between 4 and 10 years, will go down into between 1 and 2 years. So it's in a way a no-brainer what we do in shipping. We go to these carbon neutral fuels, and on the side of that we take all possible measures like using wind to minimize the actual fuel consumption and emissions of ships.
Well, that's great. I think one of the things that, right here in Miami, we have a new mayor, well, she's been there now for a year. But the new mayor is really insistent that we look at all innovative ways to look at carbon reduction. And when Mr. Risky talks about, the decarbonization, we have the cruise ships that come in, and it's great concern about the emissions that they have. And now she has implemented a program that we're going to have shore power. And so that is just really wonderful that we're going to implement that at Port Miami. So we're going to have shore power. But one of the things we'd like to do with Mr. Risky, when one of your ships come in that are powered by your innovative technology, let us know, because we're going to throw you a party. We have a program that all of us together are part of called COOL, and it stands for COO lowered, COOL. And our whole thing on the port is to try to create ourselves as one of the top 10 ports looking at resiliency and sustainability. And I think your innovation on your ships is something that we'd love to invite you to have that cargo come over here. But just to wrap it up, Mark, what is one of the things you think we can do, just in one sentence, to move us forward in regards to resilience and sustainability in transportation?
Well, I think we touched on the emissions piece. They did a great job there, but we need to look at the entire life cycle of the project. Right now, we design bridges for 100 years rather than 30 years. That means they don't have to be repaired as often. They don't have to be torn down, reconstructed. So there's a whole life cycle piece of it that we can look at. The longer that infrastructure lasts, the more sustainable it's going to be.
Great. Lawrence, what do you say?
I would say two things. The first thing that for sure, the most we use public transportation versus individual car, the more sustainable we will be. And the second thing is maybe we should also think out of the box and think about urban panification in different ways. And there are many concepts around city of 15 minutes or city of 30 minutes in which basically all the services are available for inhabitants of a city within 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, which enable to save mobility, to save car, to save time, which is also very much important. So all this will enable us to have more sustainable, more resilient city for tomorrow.
Wonderful. Thomas, what do you think we should do?
I think that we should decarbonize the world. That's what our generation needs to do today. We are on the path to make that happen. We have technology to make that happen. It will be expensive, but at the same time, it will bring us all labor and also economical growth. So this is what we need to do.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for participating today. It was a spirited conversation, and it's all about the future. Because as we look at decarbonization, as we look at resiliency, as we look at sustainability, what it's really all about is solving our transportation problems. Yep. And when we look at mobility and the opportunity to create something that, as Lawrence says, ease of access, customer satisfaction, continuous improvement, operational excellence, all those things matter. So I really appreciate everybody being with us today, and wish you all well, and thank you for your time today.